Fellow Falcoholics, what is up? Welcome to a very spicy edition of the Falcoholic Live here on the Falcons vs. Bucs Week 5 post-game show. First half of that game, pretty brutal. Second half got a lot spicier and then ended with perhaps the worst roughing the passer call you'll ever see. I'm Kevin Knight, joined by my co-host Adnan Ikic at Say Which Way on the Twitters to break down the travesty and the rest of the game of two. But obviously, I know everyone wants to talk about the call. That's what we're going to, of course, get to first. Thank you to everyone for coming in. And before we get started, Adnan, how are you doing after the end of that game?
I'm pretty upset. It just feels like a robbery. And I was over here just thinking about the first half of the game and just thinking about the narrative, the story from the first half of the game, which was Falcons can't move the ball at all. Marcus Mariota looks really freaking bad out there for a while. And I saw there were some calls for Desmond Ridder to get put in the game, and we'll get to that eventually. I don't think that is the right decision right now to pull the plug on Mariota and to put in Desmond Ridder at the moment. And then we saw, just an incredible fight out of this team, and that's something that this team has done every single week, this season. Well, we saw it in week 2 when they were down 28-3 against the Rams. And, I just couldn't help but feel the sense of overwhelming pride, just from how much they were fighting. And, they were down 21-0. And, this was a team that you could truly be proud of. And it's just so frustrating to me because this team went out there and they deserved a chance to win this game. We talk about the culture. We talk about changing the culture and how it won't happen overnight. We talk about the culture with what we had with Dan Quinn here and with Thomas Dimitroff, and how it was just a culture of losing and how they were just absolute losers for years and years. And no, that won't change overnight. But we're seeing it start to change now. We're seeing it start to change this season, and you caught glimpses of it in week 2 against the Rams when they could have easily just folded up, and it could have easily been like, oh, all right, we'll pack it up. We're playing the defending NFC champions, or the defending Super Bowl champions, and we're just gonna, it's not our week. And again, this week they could have just packed it up. They could have said, you know what, it just was not our week this week. But no, they went out there against Tampa Bay, against the division favorites, against the Super Bowl winners from 2 seasons ago, and they fought like hell, and they gave them hell. And, they had Tampa Bay fucking shaking. And, apparently they probably had the league shaking as well because, they were trying to set some shit up for Tom Brady to not lose. But even through that first holding penalty, and, I think that first penalty on A.J. Terrell, and it's not going to get talked about as much, I think that was a really weak call. It looked like it was within the first 5 yards.
The grab wasn't even that egregious either. That sort of stuff happens all the time.
It's not something that you call in that moment. Like, that was 3rd down and 5 in this game when there has been this much, aggressiveness and chippiness. You don't make that call. That's the refs kind of bailing the Buccaneers out.
Yeah.
Especially since it was a play where, it wasn't even going to Mike Evans. And then the team still fights through that adversity. Like, it's unbelievable. Like, they still kept fighting like hell after that, and they get a sack, man. Like,
they stole it from my man Grady Jarrett. They stole his sack.
Grady Jarrett again.
He almost did it 3 games in a row. Yeah,
he's had 2 incredibly timely sacks. To win us the games the past 2 weeks, and now that was the worst roughing the passer call I've ever seen in my life.
Maybe of all time. It legitimately might be. Yeah.
Like, that was the worst roughing the passer call of all time. And it's not just us. Like, we're in here talking about, we're Falcons fans. You can say that we're biased. Oh, what do they know? Obviously we have a vested interest in the game, and we do. But you're seeing it through the entire mainstream media. Everyone on Twitter is blowing up over this terrible call. And that was just, I can't even put into words how frustrating this is, because there's nothing that you can really do about it. The refs make that call, and this just feels like, it feels like a structural mistake in the NFL that these officials aren't going to be punished for this at all. Maybe if we're lucky, there's going to be some, apology to the Atlanta Falcons that won't mean shit. But the thing that frustrates me the most is that this team deserved to win. It deserved to have a chance to win. Like, I'm not saying that they would have, driven the length of the field and that they would have, scored another touchdown. They might have. They were running the ball really well. Time was running out, but they deserved to have a chance, and they were completely robbed of that chance. Like, I just don't know what to do. I'm so fucking distraught about it, because they deserve the opportunity.
Yeah,
Like,
and who
sure,
knows what would have happened, but yeah.
who knows what would have happened, but if the team was just out there looking lifeless and, getting in their own way and, just making mistake after mistake, then I don't even feel some type of way about it. But this team went out there and they fought like fucking hell, man. Like, they went out, they scored 15 straight points in the fourth quarter. The Buccaneers were shaking. They were forcing 3 and out after 3 and out after 3 and out. They were driving the length of the field. The run game was working. I think Arthur Smith dialed up the run 18 times in 22 plays. They got the 2-point conversion. Like, they got the 2-point conversion.
Yeah.
And that they had full momentum and they weren't playing for overtime. Who knows what would have happened, but holy fucking shit, man. They deserved
It's so
it, man.
bad. It's so bad.
They just fucking did, and it's just so frustrating that we're not talking about the game. Yeah, we're not talking about what was on the field. We're talking about egregious officiating, and I just have no idea. I have no idea how you make that call. I don't know why you make that call. Like, shouldn't the
You could
ref
pick it up. Like, you could pick it up when you see the replay. Like, you can. It's possible to do that.
There had to have been more than one referee who was, who saw it. They had to consult. I don't know how. I don't, and they weren't out there. And again, another thing, a part of that fight, they did it without Cordero Patterson. They did it without Kyle Pitts. They were down 21-0, and I would not have faulted them at all if they just said, "All right, you know what? This is, it's not our day. It's not our day. It's in Tampa. I wasn't expecting to win this game. I don't think most Falcons fans were expecting to win this game, and they had the chance. That they almost did it, and again, they were just robbed. Like, it's a fucking robbery. It's the Tampa Bay screw job. And I don't know, like, I don't know what else to say. This is, in my opinion, almost as bad as that no call on Richard Sherman in 2016 on the Julio Jones pass interference. And the only reason why I'm putting that slightly ahead of this is because the Falcons were already in field goal range. They were going to win the game had that call been made. You had Matt Bryan on the team, a Pro Bowler that season. You don't know exactly if they would have won it, with this, had there not been any calls, but they deserve the fucking chance, and they were fucking robbed. And
Yeah.
I feel so bad for Arthur Smith. I feel so bad for that defense, for DNPs, for the coaching staff, because they fucking deserved a chance.
They really put it together. Like, I think in the second half, they decided to mostly scrap it, and I think the passing game was clearly not working, like, at all, and that limits you. There's a lot of things that I want to touch on too. I do want to get to some of these tips. That was an amazing rant on, and I couldn't interrupt it for the tips. No offense to the tippers, we really appreciate you guys, but you guys know you have to let Adnan go. Like, you can't interrupt greatness, right? So,
I'd rather not rant. I'd rather we just win, and I just be happy.
I'd rather also just ride off into the sunset at 3-2. But we can't have nice things here. Let me get to these donations real quick before we continue on. Thanks to everyone for hanging out with us right now. Appreciate you guys. We got Solaire Guy Fieri with the $1 saying, I choose to believe that Jerome Boger is already in hashtag draft takes mode. Same with Mariota because he's absolutely terrible. George is 100% right on that. That said, Mariota is a great tank commander. Hopefully we get revenge against Brady at home. Yeah, I think the football gods need to get us that Week 18 W to repay this affront to all football. It's not just the Falcons; it's an affront to all football.
Yeah, and there's a reason why everyone has the reaction that they do. Like people like non-Falcons fans, members of the media, Mitchell Schwartz, Shannon Sharp, like they immediately went out there and they're like, yeah, this is bullshit. Like that's not football. Put flags on them, at this point. If you're going to call that a roughing the passer, like I get it. We need to focus on player safety, and I like what the NFL has done regarding player safety, with limiting some of these dirty hits. But that wasn't a dirty hit. Like at this point, legitimately go out there and play two-hand touch if you're going to make that call. Like play flag football if that's going to be the call. Like how can you call that a roughing the passer penalty?
Right.
Like, I can only imagine someone coming back in time from like the fucking 1980s or something and seeing that call, and it's like, what reaction would they have to that?
Yeah,
I don't know, man. That's fucking weak.
like
football, we get it. Like I get it. Like football's a dangerous sport, but football's an inherently dangerous sport. You will never make football not dangerous.
Yep.
And you have to give these guys an opportunity, to make the plays, because I think they were talking about it on the broadcast. If Grady Jarrett lets Tom Brady go, like, before completing the process, Tom Brady maybe gets out of that.
Oh yeah. There's nothing, like, there's literally no possible way Grady could have done that any cleaner. Like, that is one of the cleanest sacks you will ever see. Like, literally, that's the teach tape. That is a teach tape play about how to correctly sack a quarterback. He brought him down on top of his own body so he didn't even get hit by the ground. Like, there's literally no better way to sack a quarterback. Like, no better way for safety.
That's one of those plays where, the NFL needs to put that in a video and send it to all the teams and say, hey, this is how you complete this sack. This is how you complete the process. Like, that's the thing. There's not even a gray area about this. Like, I don't know a single thing that they saw, like, that could have possessed them to think that this is a fucking flag. Like, I don't get it.
Have you seen the video that's out there? Where Arthur Smith, and profanity warning for those listening. I mean, it's too late, obviously, but apparently Arthur Smith called the ref a fucking bitch and clapped sarcastically at him, according to the game film. So.
Good.
That's the correct call. That's the correct call. Yeah.
Arthur Smith, like, go out there and get this fine for this. And you know what? If I'm Arthur Blank, I'm paying that fine off.
Oh yeah, no, I welcome it. I think there's some times where you need to use those sentence enhancers, and that's definitely one of those times. So
Krabs is up.
Exactly. All right, let me get to some more of these donations as we continue this discussion. Just want to thank everyone for coming in and hanging out with us all. Almost 400 of you. Hell yeah, let's go. If all 400 of you could just like the video right now, that'd be fantastic. I will also accept subscriptions. That would be cool, too. All right, we got Corey with the $5. He says, okay, the rules for sacking Tom Brady are as follows. First, you must ask permission. Second, if permission is granted, then you must gently cradle the head, lay him down softly onto the pillows you have previously prepared, cover him with a warm blankie, and give him his bottle. Yes. That must be... Yeah, that... I feel like Grady Jarrett might have a chance to actually pull that off if he had all of the stuff out there already on the field, but
and can we just talk about how good Grady Jarrett's been?
Yeah. Go ahead, yeah.
I mean, like, just in general, he had that big fourth down stop earlier in the game on Leonard Fournette. And, I mean, we talked about Grady Jarrett last year had, a slight step back from what we're used to. And, what we're used to is, one of the top 3 defensive tackles in football. But, man, he has really looked good this year. He's looked really, reinvigorated. I think that this that these young guys who are around him are really, kind of giving Grady Jarrett his own energy out there, just being around them.
Yeah.
And he just looks, we're so blessed to have Grady Jarrett, and I'm so glad that he extended his contract, and that's a guy that I really hope is a Falcon for life. He looks really fucking good this season.
Yeah, I'm so, I mean, obviously I am, I'm wearing my, I know I not can't see, I'm wearing my Grady Jarrett jersey, of course. So, this is my guy. I was so happy when he re-signed because I knew that meant he would be here, basically until he can't play anymore. And he's certainly shown no signs of slowing down this season. Should have had a third straight, potentially game-changing sack in this one, and he does in my heart. He does in the hearts of the people. I think the people are with us on this one, and that's what I want to talk about too. I do want to get to the rest of these tips because they're starting to come in, so I want you guys to make sure you get your stuff out here while we're still talking about the call, which probably will be like the vast majority of the show. But Corey with the $5 again, he says the roughing call was so bad. Did you forget the bad holding call on AJ Terrell? Yeah. Falcons went for 2. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know Adnan touched on it, but that was another one. The Falcons went for 2, played to win. If there's such a thing as a good loss, this is it. No matter what, the Falcons don't lose to the Bucs in Atlanta. I'm calling it. Yeah, I mean, they're going to be fired up for that game. There's no question about that.
Oh, yeah, that's going to be an emotional high, especially if the Falcons are still alive.
Yeah.
And that'll be Tom Brady's last regular season home game, or last regular season game, excuse me. And, probably Atlanta's maybe their last chance to ever beat Tom Brady. And yeah, these division games already have some implications. You kind of get up for them.
Yeah.
But man, like after this, like that game is gonna be fucking, it's gonna be fireworks. It'll be like like that year in 2016 where the teams met in Atlanta again in the divisional round after the Falcons got robbed in Seattle. So, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it eventually in week 18. But man, this is now 5 straight losses to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for the Falcons, all 5 since Tom Brady got there.
Yeah.
Their head-to-head series record against the Bucs has now fallen to 28-30. This has been an all-time series. I know we all talk about the New Orleans Saints series, the all-time head-to-head matchup, but the one against Tampa has been really back and forth throughout, their history. Like, it's been a period of sustained success for Tampa, before Matt Ryan got there. Then after Matt Ryan got there, the Falcons had some sustained success. They went back and forth. Now Tampa Bay has the pendulum swung in their favor a little bit, and hopefully the Falcons can kind of, remedy that come the next matchup and come this, time period after Tom Brady when the Buccaneers fall into inevitable irrelevance as they have been for most of their, pathetic existence as a franchise.
Very much so. Yeah. I definitely have a lot of takes. I want to keep getting through these tips. I definitely appreciate everyone for tipping. The link is in the show description as well. If you guys have comments you'd like us to get to, Ray Moon with the $10 short and sweet. I hate Tom Brady. That is all. Yes, good one, Ray. Yeah, good one. I like that. We got Shmoo 2023 with the $3. Thank you, man. He says that call makes me question the integrity of the league and its officiating. Nothing else. I mean, I don't honestly think there is a conspiracy, but if you wanted to take that tack, like the calls that are that egregious are the ones that make you do it. Like, I mean,
the thing is, the NFL doesn't help itself in convincing us that there's no conspiracy when shit like that happens, especially when it's Tom Brady. It just happens to be Tom fucking Brady, huh? Like, ask yourself if the roles were reversed. If the Falcons were up by 6, the Bucs had momentum, and let's say Vita Vea sacks Marcus Mariota that way. Do you really think that they're throwing a flag for Marcus Mariota getting sacked like that?
No.
Is there on third down, especially? Is there a flag on on the Bucs DB for a slight holding within 5 yards? Like, there's no fucking way. Like,
yeah,
they were obviously favoring Tom Brady, and it's a shame, man. Because I hate that the refs are a story. I always hate whenever the refs are a story because that takes away from the game itself.
Yeah, we were robbed of a potentially really good finish here. Like, I don't know if the Falcons would have come away with it, but I think it would have been exciting. Like, either way. Like, I think there would have been the chance of them pulling off this victory, getting that touchdown. Like, even if it didn't work out, would have been a lot better than this game being ended by penalty and an egregious one at that.
I
So
can accept that if the Falcons, got if there was no flag on Jarrett, if there was no flag on Terrell, and the Falcons sputtered out, on their last drive, I can accept that.
yeah,
I'd be here talking about, it was a great fight. It was a sort of a moral victory. But I just can't accept the fact that you were robbed of the opportunity. Like, if
yeah,
you have the opportunity and you don't execute and you don't complete it, then it's like, all right, it happens. The game is the game. But, this wasn't supposed to happen because god damn it, that was a clean ass fucking sack.
yeah.
Like, holy shit, that was a clean sack.
Yeah, there's really no way you could make it any cleaner. That was just a completely missed tackle. I'm definitely of the mind that first of all, any call should be reviewable. And I mean, and we know the NFL never like does anything drastic. But like at least within 2 minutes, like, or like within the last 5 minutes of a game or something. But like, and that wouldn't have helped in this situation. But like, I think any call should be reviewable by the league office, like by New York. Now, I think they should like exercise a lot of restraint about reviewing calls, but I think if they see one that's egregious, they should be able to flag it and be like, hey, the league wants to take a look at it, pause the game. Like, because I think you could, like, if you just had another set of eyes, another person, any other person would probably have said, like, that's not roughing, like, we need to waive that off. Like, we've seen that
And the only way that this will change is if this happened in a playoff setting. Like, if this happened in a huge playoff scenario,
yeah,
it's just like the Chiefs and Bills last year. And I agree with them making the overtime rules change. I like that. I like the rule change, but they were never going to do that, until something happened last year, and it had to have been one of the NFL's golden boys, Josh Allen,
yeah,
and the Buffalo Bills. So I don't know. It just feels like a broken system. That the
yeah.
only way there's change is if it happens to one of the guys that the NFL favors.
Yeah, yeah, and it's sad. And like, yes, I mean, you're absolutely right. Like, I think that the NFL is just always going to give superstar quarterbacks preferential treatment. That's part of the reason that everyone wants to get one too, right? Because if you get one, then you can sometimes be on the receiving end of some of these good calls. It shouldn't be that way, but it always will be because the NFL's a money-making business. They're always going to lean towards protecting their product. If it gets much worse with like roughing the passer, it's like, okay, do we need to have the conversation about making like quarterback two-hand touch? Like, because like if you really can't let anyone touch the quarterback, like that's the conversation we're going to have. And naturally that's going to prevent a lot of scramble plays because guys only need to get hands on the quarterback and all this crazy ass shit. And like, no, that should never, ever be a thing. But like, we're almost to that point now where it's like even a completely clean hit on the quarterback, a completely clean sack, like textbook, is potentially going to get flagged for roughing the passer under this current set of rules. And like, just like the Falcons, hopefully will be the catalyst for the league finally taking a look at this. Like, usually it's these really egregiously bad ones that force the league to do something. I don't know if anything's going to happen, but
I'd like to think so, but I doubt it. Like, I doubt that the NFL will do anything right now except
it would
for
probably be after the season. Yeah, I mean, if anything, of course. Yeah.
like even after the season. I think there's going to be an uproar on Twitter. And because it's Atlanta, because it's a regular season, because the refs, because the league would rather Tom Brady win, nothing's going to happen. This happened to the Bucs in the playoffs, or if this happened to the Chiefs in the playoffs, or the Bills, or the Rams, then maybe there's like a legitimate conversation. But now this way, they're not doing shit about it. Like,
Yeah, it's the exact same thing. Like the Falcons got robbed in the Super Bowl. No one cared because it was the Falcons
yeah,
with the
exactly.
overtime thing. And then the Bills get robbed and they just changed
It's the same thing. It's the same exact scenario. And why? Because, Tom Brady winning the Super Bowl is better for the league than the Falcons winning the Super Bowl. Josh Allen not getting an opportunity in the AFC Championship game is bad for the league, or the AFC divisional round. It's bad for the league. Whereas, if Matt Ryan doesn't get an opportunity, it's like, okay, it's whatever. We had Tom Brady win it.
Yeah, just ridiculous. I agree with you there. We got OMT with the $3. That looked like a tackle an 8-year-old would make. And everyone on the sideline would say, good job, kid. The NFL hates Atlanta. Yeah, I mean, there's literally teach tape, that sack. Like, I mean, there's nothing. I mean, I don't think you could do it any better,
Yeah,
to
like I
be
said,
honest.
that's
Yeah.
something that you put in a video and send to teams and say, yeah, this is how you do it.
Yeah, it's just brutal. I don't really know what else to say. It was a really bad call. I think that the Terrell hold was not a good call either. It was nowhere near this one. And like also to Luke Easterling on Twitter, like a guy I generally respect, he's out here like, oh well, the refs missed that pass interference, down the sideline on the previous play, so like it doesn't matter that they blew this roughing call. Like, come on, man, get out of here. Like that DPI, like, yeah, do I think it was probably flaggable, the D. Alford play to Scotty Miller? Like, yeah, probably. But, like, it wasn't that egregious. I mean, like, I agree that, like, more often than not, that should probably be flagged, but, like, it wasn't egregious. Like, this roughing call is, like, one of the worst calls of all time. Just sit down. Like, just sit down. Don't try to both sides this officiating for the Bucs. Like, just shut the fuck up, okay? Like, there's, like, come on, man. Like, don't try to belittle this bad call by saying they missed another questionable call earlier on the drive. Like, just like I won't say anything about the AJ Terrell hold that I think, again, is another play that you should flag. Goes the other way. I mean, you should probably not throw the flag on that more often than not. But it's not like, let's not pretend that those two calls were even remotely on the same plane of like being bad calls. Like, one was completely unexcusable. The other one was like somewhat questionable. So, relax, buddy. Like, your Bucs won. Like, come on, stop trying to both sides an awful call. Like, that's just uncouth. All right, Noah Cook with the $10. I know the refs were all over Brady. Sorry, no, I can't read that part. Just happy about how much heart our team has as a whole today, offense and defense. This was much more of a moral win for our boys in red. Yeah, I mean, there's not really moral victories, but this is about as close as you can get, right? Yeah. Like, the narrative of this game is completely changed. Like, before that, it would have been like, oh, the Bucs took care of business. They fended off a Falcons rally. They're still the best team in this division. No one's going to talk about the Bucs in this game. Like, no one's going to be praising them or doing anything. They're going to be talking about the Falcons being robbed, and that's, in some ways, that is a moral win for Atlanta. Like, they're going to be like, oh, these Falcons are legit. They should have had a chance to win this game. No one's going to be talking about the Bucs, squeaking it out with some referee assistance. So that is meaningful. So it's good of you to notice that. But
yeah, it's and like I said, it's, you love seeing this from the team, seeing this fight, because that's just a testament to great coaching. And I tip my cap to Arthur Smith. I tip my cap to Dean Pease. Even though they're 2-3, it's a damn impressive 2-3 given who they faced on the schedule, and just given the fact that all three of those losses were one score games where they legitimately could have won. Like, in another world where some things break your way, this team is sitting at 5-0 right now. I'm not saying that they deserve to be 5-0, but just the fact that a play here and a play there, and they could be 4-1, 5-0. Like, that's something to me. Like, that I think that means something in a transition year where you're looking to build. Because last year the team had 10 losses, and nearly damn near all of them were just fucking terrible losses.
yeah, I agree, and that's honestly like about halfway through the third quarter, I was feeling like, oh, I thought we were past this. Like, I thought this team was going to be different than last year. And that last year, when things started to go bad, like, sometimes they would just completely fall apart and, like, they'd get blown out. And, like, those 3 blowout games I think they had, or maybe even 4. But, like, the Patriots won, the Cowboys won. Like, they got down early, and then that was it. Like, they didn't even fight back. Like, they just got crushed the rest of the game. That obviously did not happen, and I was happy about that. It felt very familiar until it didn't, right? Like, and I think this team is slowly, piece by piece, showing us that, like, okay, they're hurt. They're not as talented as these contending teams, but they are going to play, and they're going to play 4 quarters. They're not ever going to really be out of it, which is nice to see. And we've seen that twice now against 2 contending opponents in the Rams and the Bucs, that they've been able to close the gap. They've been able to tighten up on defense and have a chance to at least make a play to win the game at the end. And they've done that every week. Every single game they've kept it within a score. They've had a chance. So it it's frustrating, very frustrating to watch. It's disappointing because you would have liked to at least see the Falcons get a chance to win this game, and maybe they don't. I think there's probably a better than not chance that they don't get the touchdown. But they should have had the chance, and we were all robbed of a potentially like really good ending to this football game, and instead everyone's left. I mean, I think even like neutral fans, because this game was all over the place. Like I was getting this locally in Atlanta. I booted up my Sunday ticket, and it was like blacked out. I was like, oh, what? Yeah, it was like on. It was even on local TV up here in New York, and like so everyone in the NFL was watching this. That's part of the reason it was so like it's taken off so much and why it's getting so much traction is because this was the national game at 1 o'clock, and it's a damn shame that it ended like this. And obviously it couldn't happen to a worse person than Tom Brady, but it just keeps happening to him. He's made a deal with the devil, odd on. I don't know that there's any sort of anything anyone else can do about that. He just, there's some kind of cosmic thing with Tom Brady. He just keeps being on the receiving end of all this luck.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just, the rich get richer. Some guys just always fall upward. Um, and, he has all of this luck on the football field. He's apparently not having very much off the football field lately.
I wasn't gonna say anything, but yeah,
Yeah.
there is, reports, indicate there may be some difficulties.
I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk about the man's personal life like that. Other than what the media already know,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
and what we already know in the media.
You guys already know everything. Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah, and also like I don't know if you saw Antonio Brown's like tweet, but that shit was insane. Uh, Go on Antonio Brown's Twitter and look at his last like picture that he like posted. Like that man is just, I don't know, CTE is winning that battle like decisively.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I don't know, man. Like honestly, part of me is like, or most of me, all of me is like, you know what? I wouldn't even give a fuck had we completed that Super Bowl. Yeah, that just
I would have, for the record, yes.
like I wouldn't even care about his luck or like whatever's happening had we just like beaten him and completed that Super Bowl. But
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Yeah.
I'm no need to rehash old wounds. I
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
I do sometimes, but
Every
not
once in a
not
while.
today.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it was just I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I wish him the worst of luck moving
Right.
forward in this
Yeah.
season, and I hope they get knocked out immediately in the playoffs.
Yep. Yeah. If you guys are looking for that clip of Arthur Smith exchanging words with the ref, I retweeted it. So if you just go to my Twitter at Falcoholic Kevin, it's probably like the first tweet on my feed because I don't tweet while we're recording. That would be uncouth, except for the promotion tweets. Those don't count. But yeah, we should probably actually talk about the rest of the game at some point. But it just leaves such a bad taste in your mouth, and I think this is gonna like, and somebody in the chat said it, and I agree. It's like I remember before the season, it was on one of our like final pregame shows or whatever, and I was like, everyone's talking about the Lions as this like spicy, competitive team. And like, I don't think that the Lions are any different than the Falcons. Like, I think both of these teams are pretty much the same. Like, but the Lions are getting all the love because of Hard Knocks and all this, and everyone thinks the Falcons are gonna be terrible. And like, where are we now in Week 5? Like, the Falcons have been infinitely more competitive than the Lions. They haven't gotten any of the shine, but I think that's gonna change now. I mean, I think it has changed, over the past 2 weeks. But
the Lions look terrible today against the Patriots.
Yeah.
I think they have the worst defense in the NFL. Like that defense is looking like fucking Falcons circa 2013, 2014.
Yeah.
Like
Oh my God, dude, it's so bad.
end of Mike Smith era defense. And yeah, I don't know. Like I like the Lions, like personally, and I have friends up in Detroit, and they're big Lions fans, but I didn't get the the calls of the Lions are a dark horse playoff contender and the Lions are going to do this and that. Like that's still not a great team. Like their O line is really good. DeAndre Swift, go Dogs. I'm a big DeAndre Swift guy. Amon-Ra St. Brown is really good, but other than a couple playmakers, that team is just that's not a playoff team, and their defense is just fucking horrendous.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it is what it is. Like one of the funniest, like uh, I don't know. Go look up the Detroit Lions banners that they have at above Ford Field. Like the little division banners and stuff that every team puts up, and teams put up their Super Bowl banners, and they won the division this year. Go look at the Detroit Lions one. Like just search it up.
Yeah.
Um, because that shit is one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life when it comes to banners.
Yeah.
It's literally like it says NFL playoffs, like when they went to the NFL playoffs, and it's just like it has their like old 1930s, 1950s stuff. Then it has like 1970, 82, up to like 99. And then there's like a whole ass like third one that just says NFL playoffs and it just says 2011. Like that
Yeah.
shit looks pathetic. I'm on a tangent, but I just needed to, I just needed to share that with everyone. Go look it up if you want to laugh.
Yeah. Yeah. It's it was bad. It was real bad. And every single person that tweets out that that penalty doesn't matter because the refs missed a DPI, like, you're getting it from me, okay? You're gonna get it because we could go back like 15. You want to go back and talk about bad calls? Like, okay, what about the AJ Terrell call? Like, you want to play that game? Like, stop trying to like justify the awful roughing the passer call. Like, why are you doing this? It was an awful call. What are you possibly gaining from being like, oh, well, it should have never happened because that DP? Like, if you want to play that game, we could go back as long as you want. We can go tit for tat on that one. It doesn't have anything to do with the refs calling an awful roughing the passer call. It's just like are you just trying to prop up the Bucs here? Like, is it that much of a toe the company line thing? Like, if this happened and the Falcons won, I would not be out here trying to justify like it being a good call because the Falcons like got away with something. Like I mean, it just, come on, man. Just like you don't need to do this. Like, you're just like, are you just being a contrarian to be funny? Like, I don't think literally like anyone else neutral is calling this like a understandable call because they missed a previous call. Like, it just, we're not like, the discourse is so stupid. Like, why aren't we just all getting behind the roughing call being one of the worst calls of all time? Like, why do you have to try to denigrate it with something else? Like, no, like, stop it. Like, you're just actively taking away from this actual discussion we're trying to have to apologize for the refs because there was a call, like a questionable call previously in the game. There were like 50, like every single game there's like 20 questionable calls. There's a reason that none of those calls are getting the shine that this one is. Okay.
And I think the old thing is you can call holding on literally every single play.
Yeah. So, it's like, don't go down that road because it's not going to end well for you. Not because me, I'm just, I'm some nobody that covers the Falcons, but like, nobody agrees with you except maybe Bucs fans. So I guess if you're going for that market, like,
I think even most Bucs fans would be like, yeah, that was a.
I agree. Like, I don't see a lot of Bucs fans. I see a few being like, oh, well, it doesn't matter because they missed DPI. It's like, yeah, they missed a lot of shit in this game. It doesn't have anything to do with that play. So, whatever, man. But yeah, the rest of the game, let's get into it. I mean, the Falcons did finish with a respectable rushing total once again, 159 rushing yards, or 51, excuse me. Unfortunately, the passing game was absolutely abysmal. 110 like net passing yards. Mariota's just 14-25 for 147. Started to hit some things late, and like, it's not 100% Mariota's fault. Like, this is a depleted set of weapons. There were some drops, certainly. But I think overall, Mariota's overall accuracy in this one was not good. Yeah.
I mean, I just want. There's a reason why the Falcons dialed up the run 18 times in 22 plays. Down 3 and then 2 scores late in the game. Like, they wouldn't have done that if Arthur Smith was all trusting of Marcus Mariota. Like, Mariota is clearly putting a tap on Atlanta's offense and on Atlanta's offensive potential. But he at the very least this week, he wasn't as bad as last week. He at least contributed himself. Sorry.
Whoa, that was interesting.
It was an ESPN ad.
I believe it. I believe it. Those things
Yeah,
are
it was
very
an ESPN
intrusive.
ad.
That's it, guys. There's nothing else going on. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was pulling up the box score. Um, but yeah, at the very least, Marcus Mariota like contributed himself this week. Like in the run game, he had what 61 rushing yard. He was the team's leading rusher this week. Um, but yeah, it was his passing accuracy is just all over the place. He's not the guy long term. Like I'm sorry, he's not. My apology to Marcus Mariota stands out
Yeah.
there. But the run game was looking good overall. Avery Williams had a touchdown, which much to the chagrin of Tyler Algier fantasy owners. Tyler Algier got some carries, but he wasn't super efficient with them. But he got some of those grinded out between the tackles, type runs that you need.
Yep.
And it was just the run game has been incredible this season. Like we talked about it on the Wednesday show, how this offensive line has gone from 31st, from supporting the 31st ranked run game, the second worst in the NFL, or the 31st ranked, to one that's top 5 is just beyond my comprehension. Without any major changes. But the O line looked really good run blocking. They didn't look so good pass blocking. Marcus Mariota was under pressure, a lot in this game, and Tampa Bay does have a really good defense. It's not Cleveland's defense with no Myles Garrett and no Jadeveon Clowney and no Taven Bryan, and you know the Falcons are going to go as they will with the run game, but you can't win at a consistent level in the year 2022 with just the run game and without major contributions from the passing game as well. And that's where we're hoping that Desmond Ridder will come into play eventually. I don't think right now is the time for Desmond Ridder because, not this week against Tampa Bay. I don't think it'll be the time next week against San Francisco. Like, do you really want to throw this rookie to the Wolves against Nick Bosa and that San Francisco 49ers defense with no Cordero Patterson, with no Kyle Pitts? I get it. Like, some rookies have to be baptized by fire. Some rookies, have to be thrown into it because their teams are trying to win now and there's no other options. The Falcons aren't in that position. Like, the Falcons are in a position to bring Ridder along slowly and to give him every single opportunity for success, that's possible. And I don't see why you wouldn't want to do that because why throw him out to the Wolves with no weapons when you don't have to? Like, Marcus Mariota is making $6 million this year to pretty much, take some of those snaps. He's like a veteran starting pitcher whom you're asking to eat innings in the dog days of summer in baseball. So let's calm down on the Ridder takes for at least a couple of weeks. Let's at least move it past the 49ers, past the Bengals, and then let's start talking about Desmond Ridder after that. Well, I don't think that it will be fair to him right now. And personally, I'd wait for Cordero Patterson and for Kyle Pitts to come back before throwing them out there.
Yeah, at least Pitts, because it's just, you can see, like, without Pitts as a threat out there every play, the team, like Tampa, could just sort of key and start sitting on these routes and really just cover the short area of the field, really sit on Drake London and try to stack the box against the run. Like, it really, like, even if they're not going to throw the ball to Pitts, his like threat of as a deep option, it just demands so much attention. And he's actually blocked well too. So like he's a big loss, no doubt. The team didn't seem like they were concerned it would be a long-term hamstring, that they were just trying to be cautious, which I think is really smart. Especially since, like, they were 10-point underdogs. Like, I don't think it's like, okay, we got to rush him back for this game where we're big underdogs. And maybe he would have been the difference in this one if he was healthy enough to play. I don't think you ever rush a guy back from a hamstring injury, though. That's just a bad idea, especially in week 5. There's a lot of season left.
I tweeted it out I'm convinced that that's going to be a multi-week absence.
It very well could be. Yeah.
Like, I do not think that, that's just, oh yeah, like, he woke up gimpy and, he's close to returning. That's a hamstring he wasn't close to practicing this week. Like, maybe if he got 3 limited practice sessions this week, then, I'm like, all right, maybe he'll play next week. But the fact that he didn't practice at all and that this is a hamstring, I'm not a doctor. I'm not pretending to be a doctor. I'm not diagnosing him. Um, but just based on everything I've seen with hamstring injuries, in my life as a football fan, I think that he is gonna be out at least next week as well.
Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't shock me. And again, it's really early in the season. I don't think there's a big rush to get him back before he's ready. Um, so that doesn't surprise me if that were to happen. I think they'll get him back as soon as they think he's recovered. They said it was just soreness, but again, hamstrings are notoriously easy to aggravate. So you don't want to rush him back. It's just not worth it, especially because you want to get him reps with Ritter when Ritter comes in eventually. So there's no reason to risk aggravating it and having him miss a lot of time and possibly not having him there for him to get reps with Ritter. Let me get a few more donations here. We got Noah Cook with another $3. As a wise man once said, wise like a fox, never let them put you in a box. Ray Moon with the $5. The football gods hate us so much. Even Sanat got a sack against us. Yeah, that was
not revenge game out there today.
That was not the revenge game, considering like Russell Gage and Julio and like all these guys. Like Keanu Neal was supposed to be starting in this one. Like I didn't think it would be Deidre Sanat to actually have the revenge game. That was way down the list of possible revenge games. But yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's
Sanat, man. Holy
Deidre Sanat. Yep. It's I guess where I'm going to go next is that like this passing game is extremely limited, and partially that's due to injury, but it's becoming very clear that this is not ever going to be a tight, like super good passing game. Like the Falcons want to unleash it deep, and Mariota has been very consistent with his ball placement on those deep throws. Not all of them have been his fault. Like it's not like he's just out here like stinking it up, but you can tell there's a lot of limits on what he can do as a passer, and that's why we will, this is now 2 consecutive games where Mariota's struggled a lot as a passer. The calls are only going to get louder. It's still not the right time to insert Desmond Ridder. Like you don't put him in next week against the NFL's #1 defense. That's just going to crush his confidence if things don't go well. I think the earliest you see him is Cincy, but I still think it's most likely to be Carolina week 8. That you see Ritter. I don't think there's much of a chance it'll be San Francisco or Cincinnati. I think it's just you let it ride. Give Mariota a chance to recover. Probably not going to happen next week against the 49ers, right? I mean, that's a brutal matchup, but man, it's that's a lot to ask Ritter to come into that game and try to win it. Just not liking that. I mean, when you could just wait another couple weeks and then have the Panthers, who they could get pressure on the quarterback, but I mean that is not a very intimidating team. That could be a potential confidence builder for the rookie, as opposed to making him go play some really damn good defenses over the next 2 weeks. I just don't think it's necessary to force that at this point. Like Mariota hasn't been good certainly these last 2 weeks, but he did run a little bit more in this one. I think they need to start leaning on that more and more, especially with Kyle Pitts out, because he's very effective at it. And like again, you see the things that Mariota does offer you, right? Like his ability to like make plays under pressure and evade stuff and sort of make some of these really magical plays happen. Like that's all there. It's just like if the accuracy was better, we'd be talking about some of these plays like he's Patrick Mahomes or something. But it's like he does escape and does get the ball off, but it's getting it to these guys and it's very difficult catches. And just the accuracy. That's really the only complaint I have about Mariota, along with his not being great at reading the field either. But like, he does offer you some things. I don't really think he's the reason this offense is like not succeeding necessarily. I think there was a lot of things that went wrong for the Falcons in this game. Kadarrell Hodge, if he catches that screen, that's probably a touchdown, right? That's not Mariota's fault. So, don't pile too much on Mariota. Don't give him the blame when this was just a very sloppy day as a whole by the offense. He deserves his share of it for the inaccuracy. and the fumble and that sort of thing. Like that, those are things that he deserves blame for. But it's like this wasn't necessarily his fault. So give him his slice, but don't just pin it all on him and think that if we put Ritter into this, that it would have turned out that much differently. Especially when you got the refs, just basically shilling for Tom Brady. So. We got Corey with the $5 once again. Thank you, Corey. He says, Taquan Graham's a very instinctive player. Wasn't fooled by the screen early in the game. I've seen so many of our linemen be fooled by those plays. Also, Marcus Mariota is in there because he can get to his last read and make the right throw, and he's doing that. He does give us a chance. Yeah, I mean, I think Mariota is, like, they've been within a score every game, win or lose. He's not tanking this team. He's not keeping this team from being competitive. But I think it's limited, and like what we don't know the answer to is the offense. Would the offense be less limited with Desmond Ritter? A lot of people assume that it would be. I think knowing what we know about Ritter and his arm talent and that sort of thing, and his ability to read the field, like I think that probably is the case. But he's also a rookie who's going to be coming into a situation where the offensive line is very hot or cold in pass protection, and now his top number one receiver is going to be out. Like, it's just not a good situation for him either. It's not a good situation for Mariota at this point. So I would hold off on like thinking that Ritter's just going to be this big time savior for the offense. Like, I think at some point he will probably bring more passing ability to this offense when he's ready, but until he's ready, don't do it. Like, don't force it to happen. Mariota hasn't been that bad. Like, it really hasn't been that bad. Keep in mind, this is a low volume passing game to begin with. So like, if Mariota misses throws, the yardage is not going to be there because they just don't throw the ball very often. If they don't hit these deep shots, there's not going to be a lot of passing yardage. There's not going to be a lot of volume to begin with. So that's part of the nature of this offense, is that they're just not going to chuck the ball that much. And when you don't have Kyle Pitts, it's going to be harder to run it because they're just going to start really crowding the line of scrimmage. And, maybe Zacchaeus, maybe they can unlock Bird, but like until Mariota can hit those deep throws consistently, they're not going to back off. They're going to start, trying to stuff the box and really make it difficult for the Falcons to move the ball on the ground. They've managed to be successful moving it on the ground, even when teams are doing that, but it's still limiting what this offense really can do. Like, there's two parts, right, of the Arthur Smith offense. You've seen it in Tennessee. You've seen what he wants it to be here. They're going to be an efficient play-action pass game, and they're going to really pound the rock effectively on the ground. And right now, only half of that is working. Thankfully, the ground game is actually doing really well, even without the play-action pass game not really hitting. But you won't see this offense become good until you can hit those deep play action passes and have a more efficient pass game as a whole. Because the volume's probably never going to be there unless, Ritter comes in and is like this amazing passer and they just start airing it out. Like, I don't think the volume is ever going to be there, so you have to connect on those limited opportunities. And partially due to some inaccuracy and partially due to some drops and mistakes, this was a bad day for the pass game. So,
and also, like, moving beyond the offense, God damn it, you gave up 10 catches to Leonard Fournette. Like,
my fantasy team loved it though. Ooh.
Yeah, can we start throwing the check down, man? Like, seriously, that's what was killing us. It wasn't the deep shots. Like, sure, I know Mike Evans had a couple of deep, receptions, and there were some deep shots to Scotty Miller, which were defended. But the real killer was Leonard Fournette. Like, he was annihilating you over the middle.
Yeah,
and out of the backfield.
He had a really good game, particularly as a receiver, like you said, which just catching just tons of passes and just running through tackle attempts. So that was obviously a big problem. I think that the Falcons right now are they're really afraid of getting beat deep. And I don't know that there's a lot of justified reason for that. I mean, I don't think they've been awful defending the deep pass, but again, they're sort of making their coverage that way. I do think that, will things change when Isaiah Oliver comes back? I don't know. I think D. Alford has really stepped up. Like, he's not perfect. He is a small corner, but his fearlessness at the catch point and his just like, I'm going to go up and I'm going to compete for every single pass. Like, D. Alford I think has been a really pleasant surprise. Like, he is a starting caliber slot corner. Like, he is. So I don't know how much Isaiah Oliver changes things. We know Oliver played really well in that 4-game stretch and offers a lot as a blitzer, a lot more as a run defender than Alford, who I think is a good tackler, but he's like a 5'11", 175 corner. Like, he's never going to be a hammer against the run, never going to be a guy that's going to push the pile, the other way. He can make some solid tackles. Like, he's not as big of a liability as you'd expect a guy that size to be, but what does Isaiah Oliver do for this defense, and does he come back next week? Because I think he is close to returning. They said it was possible he could have been activated for this game, but I think it's very likely he's activated for week 6. But the other guy I wanted to talk about too, Nan, was Troy Anderson. Had to come in for Michael Walker, who has a groin injury. Obviously, we hope Walker's okay. But Anderson missed a tackle or two, but really awesome as a blitzer. Almost had another blocked punt. What did you think about Troy Anderson today? I thought he was one of the bright spots out there.
I mean, yeah, like the tools that he has makes him someone who will probably excel in that facet of the game. The blitzing facet, and I think he ran the fastest 40 time ever for a linebacker at the combine, or damn near close to it. Or he was, RAF score. He was the most athletic linebacker of all time. But yeah, he's a fast guy. He's incredibly athletic. We already saw him block one punt against the Rams in week 2. He's someone who, admittedly, we both said it before the season. He's probably a year 2 guy, but he could possibly get pressed into duty in week 1 or in year 1, because of Michael Walker's injury, and because I don't think Deion Jones is gonna suit up for this team again. But yeah, well, we saw it with Foye Oluokun a few years ago. Remember, he was a 6th rounder. He was pressed into duty because of a Deion Jones injury in 2018. He had a great season, and for some reason the coaching staff didn't end up going back to him in year 2 and through most of year 3. But yeah, I'm completely down to go with some of this youth movement a little bit. He's the next man up, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do in the middle of that front 7 moving forward, because whatever he gives you in year 1, in my opinion, is a bonus. I think he is a long-term project. He was very raw coming out of college, out of Montana, but now, if he can give you something in year 1, especially as a depth piece with your starter injured, that'll make that 2nd round pick look all the better. And Troy Anderson will forever probably be tied to the guy on the Bucs sideline who wasn't playing this week, Julio Jones, because the 2nd rounder that the Falcons got in the Julio trade, that ended up being Troy Anderson. So, let's see how good of a trade overall that'll end up being.
Yeah. I mean, I've been one of the higher people on Troy Anderson, but even I thought it would be like later this season that we started to see him get snaps. And to their credit, they've been getting him on the field, getting him some looks. It hasn't always been pretty, but you can tell immediately when he's out there. Like, his athleticism is off the charts. Like, he flies off the tape. Like, he's just out there flying around. Then tackling's not always pretty. I mean, it's not great sometimes. The angles are questionable, but again, when you're that athletic, your angles don't have to be perfect. They definitely could stand to be better. And when he gets better at taking those angles and reading plays and being a more instinctual linebacker, he's going to be really dangerous, because good angles plus elite athleticism equals impact player. And he's closer to that than we probably realize, which honestly I'm not surprised by, because this is a guy that played 3 positions in college at Montana State. And there's no way you do that if you're not a quick learner and a guy that can adapt to a new scheme, a new system, a new side of the ball, because he played quarterback and running back for 2 years before he became a linebacker. So I would not ever count out Troy Anderson's ability to be a playmaker, and I think it's really encouraging that we've seen him make positive contributions thus far, and we might need him to continue to do so if Michael Walker misses an extended period of time. We don't really know the severity of the groin injury. Certainly doesn't sound good, but not going to speculate on what that might be. We'll probably hear about that in the next couple of days. But again, the defense, I think they get they get a gold star. Like, this was a bad, like, the offense did absolutely nothing the entire first half. They completely hosed the defense, and they never quit. Like, they kept coming back and playing hard. There weren't any sacks. There should have been one. But, the pressure was not great, but they did get it. And Brady is really good at just throwing it away when the pressure's coming. You saw it happen a bunch of times. I liked that we saw more from Arnold Ebiketie. We did see Ade Ogundeji leave the game at one point with an injury, so we'll see what happens there. I do think it's past time to get Malone out there too. Ogundeji, he's really, I think, been the edge that struggled the most on the Falcons defense. So I think we need to see Ebiketie, officially take over that other spot and see Malone get more reps too. I think Quentin Bell was active over Malone today, which was very questionable to me. Why are we giving this former UDFA reps over your third rounder who's flashed? That I don't really get it. I'm sure there was some personnel reason for it, but to me personally, it doesn't make a lot of sense. The other player I really wanted to praise was Avery Williams. Had that great touchdown run. And as a returner today, I mean, he was so close to a touchdown return. What did you think about Avery Williams? Not in his transition to running back, maybe paying off a little bit.
Yeah, no, Avery Williams is a guy where, he was a DB last year, and, he's so impressive, to transition like that from year one to year two in the NFL. That's something that you do in high school. It's something you do in Pop Warner, where, you switch positions or you play two different positions to play cornerback, to make it to the NFL as a cornerback, and then to have some success after changing positions in year two. I talked to him for a little bit in training camp. I asked him about that change, and he said it was the coaching staff coming up to him one day and saying, "Hey, would you mind playing running back for us?" And his roster spot was completely secure as a return man, but now he's pressed into duty as a running back a little bit more with the injuries. He's the primary pass catching guy back, and we'll see how much more he plays with Damian Williams coming back next week, hopefully, and with Cordero Patterson coming back in the future. But he also had a really good run last week as well against the Browns. I think he had the longest rushing play of the day. It was like over 20 yards or so. I think it was a 21, or no, other than Algiers, like 40+ yard scamper. But yeah, Williams had a very long touchdown or a very long rush last week as well. And yeah, he's an incredibly impressive player. And I'm always impressed by someone who has success on offense and on defense at the NFL level. Not that he had success as a cornerback last year, but he had success in making it to the NFL as a cornerback.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a much better fit for him. I think it's clear that he really does have talent with the ball in his hands. He's very good at reading the field. I think he's becoming more patient as a returner too, which is really important. Like the way he stopped and started on that return where he almost broke off the touchdown, that was just art to me. Like you see him stop, wait for the opportunity for his blocks to develop, squeeze between some guys, and then all he had to do is beat the kicker and another guy, and they got just enough of him. But man, like that's what we need to see from Williams, because we know he has the athleticism. He's got better contact balance than you'd expect for someone his size. Just to develop the patience and the ability to read the field, the Cordero Patterson-esque ability. And I think Patterson is maybe no better. I think there's basically no better person to teach him than Cordero Patterson. And I'm sure that relationship has paid off for Williams, who's sort of had to take over the total return role with Patterson on IR. And yeah, very good game for Williams, even though didn't end up in a Falcons win. He's been like a good runner too. Like, I mean, I feel his yards per carry is through the roof, like overall on the season. So good on him going out there making plays for an offense that really desperately needed some juice. And so far he's delivering. So, yeah. Well, now we're over an hour. Anything else that you want to contribute before we wrap this show up?
Yeah, fuck the refs.
Yeah, fuck them refs. Yeah, I agree with that one. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate you. Before we head out, I want to give Adnan a chance to plug his stuff. Before that, though, please do like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We appreciate all 400 plus of you that hung out with us today as we really complained about that call and broke down the game. Just brutal, but these are the things we have to endure as Falcons fans. We're used to it. They picked a good fan base to level this against because we can handle it. But please stop giving me your toughest battles. Please. And guys, thank you. Thanks to everyone who donated. If you'd like to support the show, you can check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/Falcoholic Live. You can get access to early episodes of all the podcasts, including the audio versions of these shows, ad-free, high quality as well. I know I keep saying the Q&A is happening. It is going to happen soon. I want to make sure you guys get some good guests for that. So I'm scheduling with Dave, but if it's not this Monday, it will be within the next week. But I know you guys are looking forward to that, and that's exclusive for patrons. We get all kinds of good questions. I know if we do it this week, we're going to get a lot of questions, I'm sure, about this call. But thanks to everyone who supports us there. Adnan, he is at Say Which Way. Anything you'd like to plug before we take off?
Fantasy Stud and Dud is going, I think, on Tuesday. So, yeah, check that out. And I'll be diving into next week's matchup, into the series history scenarios if we win and lose. Another very tough test for the Falcons next week.
Yeah.
This time at home.
Yeah, it doesn't get any easier, especially defensively. I'm Kevin Knight, guys, at Falcoholic Kevin. We're gonna have some more shows breaking down this game, including a film review. We're also gonna have, of course, plenty of stuff breaking down the next matchup, which will be with the 49ers. Lots to come. Appreciate everyone for hanging out again. Give us a like and subscribe. You can follow the show at Falcoholic Live. Check out thefalcoholic.com for all that tremendous hashtag content. Until then, guys, enjoy the rest of your football Sunday. And we will see you guys next week. From everyone here at the Falcoholic and the Falcoholic Live, have a great night, folks.